So again, the four of us, we're all family. We actually grew up together, from yay high to the size that you see on the stage today. We are almost like brothers and sisters. We've always lived, right up the street from each other. All of us traveled to high school together, elementary school actually together. Preschool, kindergarten, elementary, high school, all of that. We spent our entire lives with each other. So 2014 did nothing but bring us all closer together. And this is the reason why, the four of us are on this stage now, especially at this launching of the MEL event, because, I wanted each of us to tell our stories and for how, we're able to experience something like we experienced in 2014 and be able to stand on the stage and tell you about it. I think that speaks wonders to our parents, one of whom is in the audience today, my aunt and Renaud and Talia's mother, Sheena Pinder. She is, she is all of our mothers now, and we are all of her kids still. So jumping right into it, I'll start with Tali. Tali, they haven't heard from you as yet, but we, us on this stage, we know your story. We know, well, I know personally how far you've come. Especially in your professional, life. So just introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about yourself to our audience.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here at MEL today and to see it really come together because, when Charles first said that this is something that he wanted to do and it was close to his heart, we worked really hard to get exactly the vision that he wanted for MEL, and to see it all come together today, I'm really happy. Just to say a little bit about myself without going into my session tomorrow. I'm the conference manager at Munroe Global. I've been there from 2013, and it was a major shift in my life because I was in the hospitality industry, but I also was into event planning. And at that time, Charles had just started working with his dad, and he really needed my help. So I decided to leave the hospitality industry and come into, not ministry per se, but ministry, because that's really what it is. So it really was one of the best decisions that I've made because I've grown so much as just as a person in general. I've learned a lot. Chara and I go back and forth a lot. But
yes, we do. We definitely do.
We go back and forth a lot, but at the end of the day, our goals are always achieved. What we want to achieve always happens. So it's for the best. And just kind of to piggyback off what Chara said, the four of us, we grew up together. We were very close. We're still very close. And we went through, I would say, one of the most tragic times in our lives in 2014, and we're still in the process of going through. I think you'll always be going through, but you just learn how to get through it day by day. And my first question is to Charo, based on what he was talking about today. He started off saying that he hated being Myles Munroe. And I know that a lot of people can identify with that in terms of, I guess, having to live up to something. I want to know what do you think is the single most important advice that you would give somebody that was struggling in that same area of, I guess, trying to move out of the expectations of other people?
Mm-hmm. And I'll talk about this the answer to this question a bit more tomorrow, but just to touch on it lightly, for me it was actually a conversation that I had with my dad, and I was going. It was in 2013, the beginning of 2013, and I was just going through, a lot of stuff personally and professionally, and I was just frustrated. There's still a lot of expectations on me, and I felt like I wasn't given, the opportunity to be myself because of who my dad was. And, he and I had a conversation. I sat with him, and he completely changed my perspective on what I was dealing with. I came to him, I was like, Dad, I'm frustrated. I just feel like there's so much expectations on me, like expectations for me to do this and do that, and because of who you are, try to live up to or be better than you, and I just felt the pressure of it. And he was like, simply, as he always does, makes everything seem like, oh, it's nothing, just do this. But what he told me was, don't look at it as an expectation, but look at it as a responsibility that you have. And I totally changed my perspective, because now I can internalize that and make myself accountable for what I want to do. He wasn't saying, of course you're expected to be X, Y, Z because of who I am. No, he's saying, look, no, you're not expected to do anything. You're just responsible to carry the name the way that it's supposed to be carried. And that single conversation that I had with my dad changed my life. And it's one of the reasons why, we're on a stage today and you were sitting there, and this MEL event is happening. Because I took the responsibility of the Munroe name and me being Myles Munroe, and creating a platform that I was comfortable with. And I think that's what this event is all about. So I want to pass it to my sister. I think I was sitting there listening to you, and you didn't hear my presentation, but pretty much everything you said, I said, because you and I kind of lived the same life with all of these expectations. What was the moment for you, just piggybacking off of Talia's question, when you kind of came into your own and, you kind of said, look, I understand the expectations that are on my life, but, I'm going to take the responsibility now of deciding or creating what I want my end person to look like.
It's so difficult. Before I answer Charles' question, it's so interesting to hear Charles say what he said, because it's a prime example of what I talked about earlier. You have external expectations, and then you have internal expectations. My dad didn't put that expectation on him to feel like he has expectations or to be greater than him. That's an expectation that he imposed on himself, that he was trying to meet, that he just felt he couldn't, because, it was at that time, being greater than dad just didn't, you tried, but it just didn't look like it was there. And so, just managing that, and I'm so glad he was able to say, you know what, let me deal with this. Let me face it head on. Dad, this is how I'm feeling, look for advice. And that's one thing that I would recommend. If you feel like you're getting so flustered or overwhelmed with the expectations that maybe you have of yourself or others, ask someone that's older than you, who has been through, like my dad. Me and my brother, I know for us, our parents are no longer here. So we actually go to my aunt a lot for advice. Sometimes I go to her and just tell her maybe I've been through an issue. Do you think I handled it correctly? Because I haven't arrived yet. We are still emerging, and that lets me know that there's a process. And to his question, it's going to be difficult to pinpoint a moment. And I say that because there are different levels of my life which require different levels of maturity. And I think the more mature I get, that moment changes. So at one phase of my life, there was a moment where I said, okay, I'm not going to be concerned about expectations. I can deal with this now. I'll still, it's all about me being me and no one else. And then something else will happen, and it'll be a different set of responsibilities which bring on a different set of expectations that I have to get through. So then that requires a different moment when I say, again, I'm going to manage this differently. I'm not going to let it overwhelm me. And then you have a different phase of my life, like 2014. That now still needs a different moment where I say now, people are going to expect me to fill my parents' shoes. It's impossible. I can fill their shoes. I cannot fill my dad's shoes. I'm not looking for it, but people are expecting us to. And so now I have to now continue to discover and manage and find a different moment that I'm gonna say, you know, I'm not gonna fill their shoes. I can create my own. Doesn't mean I can't walk beside them though. Beside the same shoes that they used to create the same footsteps they did, and even some that they didn't. Charles and I have come before people in the last year and a half that my dad didn't. And that just because, I guess for that time, God didn't see it fit. But for some reason, he made it easy enough for us to come before those people, whether they were there for advice, whether it was just they went through the same thing we did, so we don't feel alone. But nonetheless, you know, expectations, like I said, as negative as they may sound, they're positive. And as I listened to everyone talk after me, I didn't hear my brother before, so I have no idea what he said. I hear that one main thread that, you know, there are these expectations that we have to live up to. And I'm going to talk about this a lot tomorrow, but I don't want to spoil it, so I won't do a spoiler. But, you know, expectations have boundaries and limitations. And that's why, again, management is key. We can't eradicate them. I can't get away from Munroe. I've already told myself, when I get married, it's going to be Munroe Dash, whatever that last name is. So, you know, I can't run away from it, but I can accept it, and I can manage it.
Okay, I just want to bring Renor into the conversation. Sorry. Okay, you know, all of us are family, so you guys know this gentleman sitting to my right as Richard, but I call him Renor, or Nor for short, because, you know, it's my father. So if you hear Renor, just know I'm talking about Richard Jr., but I'll try to be as professional as possible today, sir.
Appreciate that.
No problem. But yes, you know, I think Richard is the surprisingly the more quiet of the bunch. I think, but to me, he's the most outgoing. Like, he's the most relatable. Like, he has no problem striking a conversation with anyone randomly, someone he knows. Like, he really makes people feel at ease or calm or welcome, something that I really had to learn. And he was one of the persons that kind of taught me, and I don't think he knows this, but he taught me how to do that by just, you know, me just being around him and watching him and the way that he speaks to people, or the way that he would, you know, just break the ice with, you know, an individual he may not know. So, you know, just I guess my question is, what is it about first of all, did you feel any expectations placed on you? And what is it about the person who you are that makes you most comfortable in being around individuals, you know, without feeling any, I guess, insecurities or feeling, you know, any, I guess, yeah, you know, yeah.
Sure. So
You got it.
basically, I want to say firstly that in terms of expectations, growing up, my father, my mother, anytime they talked to my sister or myself, the conversation was never about what I expect from you in terms of this is what you have to do, this is what you're going to do. At the end of the day, they always wanted, one, what was best for us. Two, they wanted us to be happy. And three, they wanted us to find the purpose, find our purpose, and develop that. And so it was never a matter of expectation, but it was a matter of finding out who you are, developing who you are, and ensuring that you had all of the opportunities and the tools and the skills necessary to become that person. Because once you've, like I mentioned, once you've found out who you are and how you can contribute, then you can now say, I can develop this particular skill. I can become better at this. Because even in the same vein that you're mentioning, my outgoing nature, generally speaking, that's not me generally. But what I found is that the best way to relate to people is just to be real. And a lot of times what I've found in talking to clients on a daily basis, on the phone with persons, people just want you to be real. And I find that one thing that I did mention is that emerging leaders. We talk, that's what this whole conference is about. And you can lead from wherever you are, whatever career you're in, whatever field you're in. You don't have to be on this stage. It could be in a one-on-one conversation. I think someone mentioned it earlier. You'd be amazed and surprised how that conversation may seem insignificant to you, but just the way you carried yourself, the way you handled yourself, the conversation you had, the positivity, you may even have given advice that you didn't intend to give, which comes to the level of consciousness that you have to have when you're speaking with persons. But I think that in terms of expectation and following in my father's footsteps, something that he always preached was, you don't know how people are gonna take what you give to them, or take what you say to them, or take how you relate to them. So always try to be positive. Always try to be honest. Always try to be real. Because at the end of the day, if you're just doing something and you're talking to someone, you're not being real, they could tell. People could tell. And I'm sure persons in the room can relate to the fact that we've all had conversations with persons and right away your spirit didn't take to them for whatever reason, but you could always tell when they're not being real with you. And the thing that I do on a daily basis is I just try to be a real person, because no matter what your name is, last name, first name, at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we're all dealing with a significant amount of issues on a daily basis. And so I would encourage everyone in the audience and watching, I would encourage that just be real with yourself. And that's the purpose of this conference. We talked about managing yourself. That's why it's important to deal with you, because a lot of persons are watching you. It's not necessarily even a conversation you may have. It may just be, just how you say you relate to others and how you develop your relationship with other people. And so people are watching you, and you don't necessarily have to worry about what they think about you, but you do want to give a positive image, because that's the image that you want to portray. You don't want to portray a negative image. And so I think that for me, being able to relate to people or being able to break the ice, as it were, comes from the fact of I just try to be as real as I can with them.
That's good. Just want to open the floor for your comments or questions. So if you do, you could come up to the front, stand on this left, my left, your right, and you'll be able to ask your questions. Mercy, go ahead.
And as I'm listening to Renaud, one thing I realized today, it just plays into my spirit, telling your story makes you valuable, and it makes you credible, and it makes you trustworthy. And I say that because you don't tell your story, no one knows who you are. They can assume, but they don't know who you are. So, I have someone that asked me today, so what kind of social worker are you? I didn't know you were a social worker. And that's probably true. They probably thought that I just maybe was in ministry full time and don't have any other career. No, I actually work as a social worker in the medical field, but no one will know that unless I say that. And, I say that to say telling your story makes you credible and trustworthy, because, when Renaud was talking earlier today in his presentation, and he talked about being real, I could attest to that, because, was it last year, Renaud, or earlier this year? Last year, Mom and Dad were no longer here. So, how can I put this? Okay, let me be real. The wealth of resources that I had access to was not as it was before. So I needed to now buckle down and manage my budget, manage my money. And so I could have gone to the bank. I live in America, so I could have gone to Bank of America, which is where I bank. I could have gone to Chase. I could have gone to some accountant that I know over there, pay a couple dollars to get a consultation on budgeting. But I remembered that I have a cousin at home who I'm very close with, who I know is up in the charts when it comes to managing money and credits and so forth. And I said, let me give him a shout. And so I called him, and Renaud, literally, professionally, I'm family, but professionally, we were on the phone. I told him what I wanted. I told him what I needed and why. And exactly what he said to you is exactly what he said to me. Get a blank piece of paper, write down everything, then come back to me. I was like, yes, sir. So I did exactly that. Took a couple of days, did that, called him back. This is what I have. Man, he broke me down to about this size. Literally. I was living beyond my means and did not see it because I never looked at it on paper. But literally, my expenses, my having fun, outweigh what I was making. And Renaud said, and he called me Rissa, but Rissa, you doing more than you actually have. You know, you need to cut out some stuff. And I was like, what? No, you know? But he was real with me. And, you know, it slapped me in the face, but it was the best realness I needed to hear. And because of the story that I know, where he is, I was able to trust, no, he ain't just family, so I ain't gotta listen to him. No, I saw beyond that. And I trust that if he have other clients who are probably even more wealthy than I am, or poorer than I am, and they trust his judgment, why can't I? And so, you know, he told me what to do, and you gotta cut out this and cut out that. I was like, no, but I can't cut out the gym. I have to get my nails done every 2 weeks. My hair is important. And he and I are going back and forth. But he's telling me, no, you know, and literally, on my expenses, I made over hundreds. And it was fun, but it was real. And so, again, I say that to say, telling him, me knowing his story, or part of it at least, allowed me to trust him and know that, okay, I can go to him if I needed assistance with money. I know Talia's story, so I know if I need assistance or I needed some baking or a food question or advice, I go to her. Business, my dad isn't here anymore, so I know my brother's a businessman. As much as I have a master's in business, I know if I want some quick answers on business, I go to him. But it's amazing how, you know, we don't know stories of others or even our own families. So we tend to go on the outside because we don't trust them, or we don't trust their judgment. Are you just gonna advise me like this because you're family? No, we're honest and real with each other. And so telling your story is very, very important, and being real about your story is very important.
I just want to give one last on that as Charisa was talking. I thought about another story where my father would have given me the being the man in your household speech, and talking about finances and being able to manage your household, because of course, happy wife, happy life. And as you can tell from my mother over there, who was always happy, he did a good job with that. But I just want to say that whenever we talked about finances, whenever we talked about money, his thing always to me was that you may not have everything you want right now, you may not have everything you need right now, but if you start where you're at, if you look at where you're at, and you be honest with yourself, as I mentioned, and you're able to say, this is what I can do, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I will do. And then you start from where you're at, and you start to work that. You start to work your resources. You start to work and develop and invest, and you start to build. Eventually, you will attain those goals.
So, I mean, you know, Talia, I like, you know, Charisa said, we all know each other's story. So, and as we wrap up this first MEL talk, you know, I just like, I guess each of us just to go down and give, I guess, 30 seconds of what emerging and becoming an emerging leader means to us personally. So, Talia, we can start with you.
For me, to emerge, it really means to break out of your shell. And at least that's what it means for me, because I don't want to get too much into my sharing for tomorrow, but I am always a behind-the-scenes type of person. Always want to be in the back. Yeah, I'm leading, I'm a leader, but I want to do it from the back. I don't want to have to be in the front. I don't want to have to talk. I don't want people to have to look at me. So to me, emerge just means to break out of the shell that you're in and come out into the light. And for me, that's really what this conference is as well, because you know, having to share, having to talk, I can share candidly, but if it's a one-on-one. But for me to stand on the stage and talk, it's hard. So, you know, even this conference is helping me emerge and break out of my shell and my comfort zone. So for me, that's what this is, pretty much breaking out of my shell and just emerging into the leader that I know that I'm called to be.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really knowing who you are and trusting that person. you know, doubt and fear are normal emotions to feel and normal ways to think about different situations. You know, for this event, you know, I doubted this event. I was anxious about this event. I was fearful of this event.
You was.
I definitely was. But, you know, 2 weeks ago, last week, this week, I started to just say to myself over and over and repeatedly, look, you know what you know what the vision is and what it was when you saw it. Just trust that. Like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna turn into what it's supposed to turn into, and just trust that and emerge.
Emerging leaders. Emerge. The only way you're going to emerge from any situation is to challenge yourself. And I think for me, that's why I keep going back to that word. I think as an emerging person, not even a leader, but as a person, the key to advancing, the key to fulfilling your purpose is to challenge yourself. And I believe that if each one of us challenge ourselves and we're able to reflect on what we do now and how much more we can give, and we challenge ourselves on a level where, okay, I'm doing A today, but tomorrow I know I could do a little bit more than A. I could go a little bit further than that. I think that you will emerge more than you've ever dreamed within yourself.
You know, when I think of emerging leaders, the constant there is leaders. We were always leaders. We've been leading in our own right and in our own gift. We were born to lead. But I think the key word is emerging. And when you think of anything, when you look at the phonics of the word, anything with an ing means it's ongoing. It's still going on. It's going on presently. That means there's a process. And so when I think of emerging leaders, I think, you know, we can even change that emerging to exposed. I think our leadership is now being exposed. To be very honest with you, the one story that all of us have is we prefer to be on the back lines, at the bottom, making sure that the forerunners are up front. And they don't have nothing to worry about. Give me the back any day. But now I think it's just our time to now be exposed. And that's why telling your story is so important. So not only do we want to be exposed, but we want to expose you, others like yourself. So when you think of emerging leaders, as I was talking about this over the last couple of weeks, I was trying to get people away from thinking about emerging meaning young, meaning you're just coming up. No, just coming out. Up and out are two different things. And so I think it's just a matter of trusting the process that as leaders you go through from day to day.
Well, thank you guys. This has been MEL Talk 1.
Were there any questions? Any questions, any comments? Maybe about 3 minutes.
Okay,
Meryl? 30 seconds.
Yes, I hope.
30 seconds.
I started Talia. You're something like me. I like being behind the scene. I'll do anything behind the scene but to project out now. I find myself, I will do anything pertaining to giving, helping out in the back, but then again, to get up there and speak. My husband said I talk a lot, but you can't get me up there, okay? But you have done a very good job, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charo, I mean, I don't know what to say, but I think you have a healing hand. Because what you did for my shoulder today, it was paining, and it's not paining anymore, okay? Reno, you mentioned help, you're talking about life, avoid difficult situations. Now, I think you did say something, how would you do that? But in my situation, I have family members, and they look to me for everything. They feel like I'm the bank, I'm the counselor, I'm the cook, or I'm the grocery store. Now, how would I avoid those difficulties?
Well, Two things. I think that one, you need to see the handsome gentleman in front of you. It sounds to me. But on a serious level, I believe that you're always going to have that one or two persons in every family, that one or two persons that are dealing with that particular issue. And I believe, from my own experiences and talking with other persons, I believe that you're just going to have to set boundaries. And I believe maybe it comes from a place of your personality in terms of how you feel towards certain persons in your family. But I believe that you're just going to have, it's going to have to come to a point where boundaries have to be set. And I mean, and that's the only way that you're going to be able to be comfortable with yourself. Yes, feelings may be hurt words may be said, but at the end of the day, your happiness is the most important thing.
And be consistent with those boundaries. When you set them, don't, okay, I'll do a few this time. No, just be consistent.
That's my weakness.
Yes.
Consistency is important.
Yeah, yeah. And Charisa, when I listen to you, I think of when you were a little girl up in Marquis Street, and I watch you grow. I watch all of you all grow, and I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I am so proud to hear you all saying this today, that you have to be yourself and no one else, no matter how the tide changes. I am so amazed. And to see you all have such a stern head, you know, the old people say stern head on your body. And I mean, words cannot express what I'm feeling now about you all four, because I watch you all from little toddlers now into adults. And I have to say, God bless you all continually.
Thank you, Meryl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one quick question. Getting the opportunity to kind of talk to different types of leaders pretty regularly, I always ask them one question to just make sure I'm thinking about things the right way, or I'm prioritizing my actions the right way. But what's one thing that keeps you guys up at night? One thing that keeps you up at night?
I mean, for me personally, that has changed obviously since 2014. Before, it used to be, to make sure that I get my father where I feel he should be. That kept me up at night. I think now it's to ensure that everything I do, two things: to ensure that everything I do, I make them proud, and I expand on what we were left with. It keeps me up at night. So I'm constantly thinking of what else can I do? What else can be done? How can I better this, that, myself? That drives me every evening.
I'm always thinking about, what to do next. And I think it's pretty much the same thing Charles said. What can I do next? What can I do after this conference? Now what? It's always now what. And as I say that now, 2014, November 9th, I said that exact same thing to my brother. When everything happened, hours later, we both looked at each other and said, now what? I mean, we would have never imagined to this day, Mom and Dad still wouldn't be here, and the four of us moving forward as a family vision. But, still, every night I'm up thinking, okay, now what? Because I know we can't stop. We can't stop at this conference. We have to start now thinking next year, and, what am I going to do? I know there's a book inside of me, so there's now what? And so there's always that now what factor.
I think for me, the thing that keeps me awake at night is, I keep coming back to my word because I constantly feel as though I have to do better. I have to do better. I mean, there's so much going on in our world, there's so much going on in our country, and there's so much more that I can do. And I know that I'm not doing enough. And I think what keeps me up at night is just thinking, how can I be a better person? How can tomorrow be better? How can I do better in my field? What didn't I do good that day? And so I think definitely the thing that keeps me up at night is, how can I do better?
I think because November 9th happened, and it happened to all of us, it completely changed our perspective of everything. So I think all of our answers would be the same in terms of our parents. And, I think constantly about my dad, because we were so close, we talk a lot. I know the things that, he would say, Talia, I want this, I want you to start this, I want you to do this. So it's always a battle, like, okay, I know he's looking down on me. Am I making him proud? Am I doing the things that he would have wanted me to do? And normally, anytime I'm up at night, I'm thinking of him on some level, whatever it is. So.
Time for one more?
The last,
Sorry, last question.
Okay, yes. Well, this last one.
My name is Mick Godson Benjumbo. I'm here from Portland, Oregon. Thank you for welcoming us here to the conference. My question is, how do you either set and or manage expectations as you go into your different endeavors, knowing that, and I know, Charo, you are talking about this and building your own personal brand, but each of you, how do you go about setting or managing expectations? Because people naturally have those expectations of you. And Charisa, I believe you were talking about that as well.
And I said it briefly, just like we said to Meryl, managing, setting boundaries. I think the knowledge of the fact that expectations are there and they're not going anywhere is already half the battle. So now what are you gonna do? So you manage them. And the best way to manage them, I mentioned earlier, is through purpose and through vision. And decide which expectations you are going to allow to affect you adversely or positively. And the adverse ones, personally, I use them as stepping stools to move up. I don't allow it to pull me down. And then the positive ones, they're just even more motivation. Nonetheless, all the expectations are going to be motivation for me to either do better, whether I'm trying to meet it, whether I'm trying to just to beat it. Nonetheless, I am, attitude is everything. And the right and positive attitude towards anything is going to be key when it comes to managing, especially managing expectations, because you can't get rid of them. You can't eradicate them. They're there. So you just watch your attitude, change your perception towards the expectations and then towards the people that have them, because they're there.
One more thing. I think it's important also to not allow other people's expectations of you to turn you into someone that you're not, or you're not supposed to be. Because at the end of the day, you're never going to meet everybody's expectations. If you meet Charo's expectations and you didn't meet Renaud's, and then you're trying to meet everybody's expectations, but you're not being yourself. So, like Charo said, people expected him to be his dad, but by doing that, he's not being Charo. He's not being Myles Munroe Jr. So I think it's important to not make other people's expectations of you turn you into somebody else.
I think expectations already, they already come from something that was said before. People have expectations based on some stigma or based on some historical norm. And prime example, simple but prime example. I saw Talia today for the first time in a while, and then I saw her husband. Hadn't seen him since the wedding. I honestly had an expectation in my mind that newlyweds, when they get married, for some reason food gets good. The wife cooks, the husband eats, and they gain weight. So I automatically expected her husband to look a little bigger than he was when I saw him last. Only because I know that married life would be so good. And so I said to Tali, so when I saw him, I looked at him and he looked good. He maintained
Wasn't
everything.
expecting you to look this good.
And I said to him, man, I really expected you to gain weight because and Talia is a very good cook. You cook, she cook, you eat.
She's okay.
And so I really thought that, but that was an expectation I had because naturally, people get married and life just gets good and it's like, man, I can tell you really just got married like 2 months ago. And so, but that was the worst expectation I can have.
Yes,
and so
was.
he definitely beat that. But nonetheless, it was an expectation. And so, we have to be careful how we use people's expectations who would have just had them set from, just some prehistorical norm that, we are now trailblazing. It's no longer the norm. We're building our new norms.
That's good. So with that, we wrap.